Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. On the show today, I have Nina Magen, the principal of Contour Interior Design. Contour is an international full-service interior design firm with offices in both Houston and Miami. The Contour portfolio has a long list of award-winning interiors that have received recognition from NBC, Bravo, and HGTV Networks, as well as acknowledgment for Best Interior Architecture and Best Commercial Interior by Paper City, and ASID awarded them Best Commercial Interior. Contour's work has also been featured in Rue, Elle Decor, House Beautiful, Interiors Magazine, and Luxe Interiors and Design, to name just a few. Listen today as Nina talks, and I think you'll hear what I heard. A savvy woman who clearly has as much going on the business side as she does on the design side. Nina is driven, and it shows in her 9-year rise of her design firm, and it shows in the way she runs her firm. We talk about her staff, how she hires, what she looks for in someone when she's hiring, and we talk about the significant impression it made on her and her business when she was on American Dream Builder TV show. So before we get to the show, a reminder about our sponsor, My Doma Studio. You want to be sure that you have all of your projects organized and you want them all professionally presented. And I know that you'd rather spend more time designing than doing invoices and paperwork. So go over to mydomastudio.com/awelldesignedbusiness and let My Doma Studio see and find out how they can help you run your firm more efficiently. There's an offer for you there as a podcast listener. Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, Nina, you are like one busy lady over there in Houston and Miami.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I usually go through all the information that I can find on somebody, and I try and figure out what I'm going to talk about, because everybody that listens to the show knows that there's usually a hook, there's an angle. And you know What I thought was interesting when I looked at your website is that you have a pretty big team. First of all, you have a senior design manager and a senior designer. You have 3 associate designers. You have 2 junior designers and a project coordinator. And there's probably other people that maybe didn't make their picture to the to the website. But here's the thing. One is from Colombia, one is from China, one is from Madrid, and one is from Mumbai. And I was like, what is going on there? So that's pretty interesting. Tell us a little bit about how did you come to have a team with such a international, showing there? What's all that about, Nina?
Okay, so, obviously, since you know about me, I love modern design. I love forward-thinking design. And, I guess just it was part of nature's calling that the people who attracted themselves to me and my company are those who are of an international background, because they understand that forward-thinking modern feel and design. And so it was just kind of a progression of how the team started building. There was at one point where I did not have the international team. And, again, this has been a progression over probably the last 4 or 5 years, how the team became more and more international. And so, actually I have 3 Colombians, one girl from India, from Mumbai, and obviously I'm Indian as well. And then I have one guy from China. I have one girl from Mexico City, one from Madrid, and I have a couple of North Americans as well. So,
wow.
I think that that's really what our unique edge is that these people are not only from a different background, but they also have been educated from their countries. So they're bringing this international feel to the table, which many other design firms are, I think, missing the boat on.
Yeah, and I could see how that would really be a very inspiring atmosphere, right? Like all of you coming from all different perspectives. I mean, look, you can put 5 American designers in a room and they're all going to have a different aesthetic and a different perspective, but this really does up that game a little, I would think.
No, absolutely. And it's so funny because we have massive arguments in our office. I have this very collaborative environment where everyone has to, give their opinion. And we have this rule in our office where, if you don't like something on someone else's design, you have to give a reason why. You can't just say, oh, I don't like this. You have to explain why you don't like it. Otherwise, your opinion is voided in that conversation. And so that is the rule of our office, and everyone knows that rule. And so what that does is it makes everyone's mind think more, and you're thinking outside of your comfort zone. You're thinking outside of your box, and you're listening to somebody else's thought process and their opinion and where they came up with their design opinion from. And so I think that's so important. And I think that's really what sets us apart from a lot of other design firms.
I like it. And I like that requirement because, look, as creative people, sometimes we can look at something and know that we don't like it. And a lot of environments, it's fine to just say, I just don't like it. I can't put my finger on it and it just doesn't feel right. And that is actually often a valid opinion, a valid statement, not opinion, but a valid statement. But when you put the requirement that you must explain it, it just requires you to really contemplate and now say, well, actually, it's because the scale of the one piece or yada, yada, right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. And so, and not only that though, but we learn from each other because of that, and we there's a lot of headbutting in this office because everybody who I hire here, they're extremely passionate about the brand and also about the designs that we're turning out. And so because of that, every designer, because they're so passionate about it and they're so opinionated in my office, we had to set some kind of rules and guidelines to say, okay, you like it, but I don't like it. But what's the reason why? Let's learn from each other.
I like it. I think it's awesome. Well, I mean, look at this. We're talking 5 minutes and I can already hear the energy that you have. So I can just imagine add like this international crew of designers.
Oh, we're crazy.
I'm like 5 minutes in. I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that.
No, it's a very fun office. And
imagine.
The thing is also you hear all these different accents in our office.
That's hysterical.
So, the clients love it because they think it's hilarious because somebody comes in with a different accent, somebody else comes with a different accent. But it's so appreciated. Our clients love us. And it's because they just love the atmosphere of the office. We're so collaborative. We're so in tune with each other. And I think it just worked out. I think everything just worked out for me.
It's nice. It's very nice. So we're going to talk about how you built that team and how you find them and hire them in the process. But I want to ask you one question that really, I normally never ask any questions about design, but it is occurring to me since you're right here and it's hitting me in the head. It's funny because you said when you started with one of the reasons that you're attracted and you attract international designers is because you have that, what was the word you use? A very specific modern
forward thinking.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so here's my question. When you said that, I was like, right. Like when I think about when I've gone to stay in hotels in Italy and Germany, there are there's always these really cool modern environments. Not everyone, of course, right? But the point is, it's like, wait a second, what is the deal with it? Is it because their country is, hundreds and thousands of years old that they all like modern and our country is only 200 and some years old and so we like traditional? Like, what is that? Like, what do you think that is? You would think that, the roots in Colombia and Madrid and everywhere else are for centuries.
I don't know why that is. I don't know the exact reason, but from my travels and from my experiences, is that there's design is so prevalent and in your face in other countries. Italians are known for design. Whether it be clothing, whether it be interiors, whether it be surfaces or tile or what have you. Italians have always been ahead of the curve, and so is Spaniards. They have also been ahead of the curve, and I think they've seen the old architecture. They have that old architecture in their countries. Necessarily living in Texas, we don't have that. Texas is fairly new, and so I think that we're they've already seen that they've seen it.
Right.
They've seen the ancient stuff. They've seen the old stuff. They've seen history. And so there's an evolvement that's happening in these countries. And so, when I go and see design in Spain, like for instance, I'm going to Saloni, which is a big furniture show in Milan in April. And so, everyone's been telling me about it, and they're like, you're going to see furniture like you've never seen before. And I've been to Art Basel in Miami. I've been to these other shows, but they're saying that you're going to see something you've never seen before. And I feel like they have evolved. And I think that we're still stuck in this, like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like this traditional American Mediterranean traditional home that, when you speak to people who are foreigners, they don't understand American architecture. Right. And I think that Americans don't necessarily understand this new forward-thinking modern architecture. They're getting pushback for it because I don't think that there's enough education on it yet. But if you talk to any people who are coming out of school, who are in design school right now, the teachers are teaching modern. They're teaching this forward-thinking design. So I think it's coming. I just don't know if we're quite there yet, which is why we are, going against the grain and going full force with this modern feel and forward-thinking design, because I think that's where everything's going.
Huh. It's interesting. It really is interesting. Like I said, I don't normally go down a discussion about design itself, but I think about it. 40 years ago, I was an exchange student to Germany, and the home that I lived in 40 years ago in Germany is more modern than the home I live in now that was built 5 years ago.
See, that's what I'm saying.
It's like, wait a minute.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I just don't know if the general population here gets it yet. I don't think they've been exposed to it yet. Yeah. But there's so many people, like for instance, in Houston, where I live, there's so many, South Americans who are coming here who are opening up these showrooms where they're bringing these brands like Driade, Fendi Casa and, Molteni, Baxter, all these big European brands are coming here now. And so the exposure is coming here, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It just takes a few change makers. And, I want to be one of those change makers.
Very cool. I'm quite sure you will be.
Thank you.
Okay. So now let's go back to creating this team. And so your firm is only 9 years old. It's a very big firm for only 9 years. But I'm just going to say it. I can hear in your voice how driven you are and how on it you are. So I'm not surprised. But tell me about the process of, and look, you have an international team, but the skill of identifying the right personality, the right talent, and the right team member to add to a culture is the same skill whether you are looking to add all the same people that are just like you to your firm or people from a varied background. So talk to us a little bit about when it's time for you to add a team member. Do you, for example, I remember Chad James discussed with me how
I love him.
Oh my God, isn't he amazing? I know. I love him
so
too.
much fun.
Oh my God, he's adorable. But his program, he talked about how you literally start out at intern level and you work your way all the way up and through. So that's one approach. What's your approach when you're ready to hire a team member, Nina?
Okay, so what I do is I'm actually hiring someone right now.
Oh.
So I can give you a little bit about what my process was. But, I have a flow chart. And I have a flow chart, and that basically says from the top for me all the way down, who are the positions, not necessarily the people, but what are the positions who I need in my flow chart for my company to run properly. And so when somebody leaves, I reevaluate my flow chart and see what position do I really need. Do I really need a business development person? Do I really need a senior designer? What are we really needing right now? Because every time somebody leaves, I actually look at it as an opportunity. As long as they're not like my core people, I don't mind people leaving, and they have to evolve just like I do. But again, I have to see what's my opportunity and what do I really need in my firm. So I don't necessarily start from the bottom. I see what my needs are first.
Okay.
Once I decide, what is the position that I'm actually looking for, we go through so many avenues. We go through LinkedIn, we go through Indeed, we post ads, we go on LinkedIn, we actually contact people. I contact people and say, hey, are you looking for a job? If their resume looks good, but it depends on the position and what our requirements are. Do we need that person to know AutoCAD? Do we need them to know SketchUp? Are they designing? And do they have a good personality? Are they positive people? Usually when I do my first interview with anyone, I can tell right off the bat if they're a good fit for us or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty obvious because you can see, are they nervous? Are they outgoing? Are they friendly? Am I interviewing them or are they interviewing me? That's happened before too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that every single time the conversation flips and the interviewee is actually interviewing me, I know there's a problem. There's a power struggle there.
Uh-huh.
And so
Okay.
that's happened every single time because I ended up hiring two people because I thought that they were extremely intelligent,
Right,
that they
right.
were
You thought you
asking me all the right
respected it.
questions.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I thought, oh, I'm respecting this person. They're so intelligent. And in actuality, it became a power struggle both times.
Whoa.
So I'm very cautious to make sure that I'm not the one being interviewed during my interview,
Right,
you know?
right.
And so that's something that I look for. I also look for, we're a family here. My team is my family. We are with each other all the time when I'm not at my house.
Right.
And so that cohesiveness has to be there. And
Mm-hmm.
so if they're a personality that can't get along with the
Right.
rest of the team, why even ruin the dynamic?
Right.
It's
Oh
not
my
worth
goodness, you're right. You sacrifice everybody else on the team, right?
Exactly. It's not worth it. I've done it before. I've kept people that not necessarily the rest of the team liked, but I kept them because I said, no, I think they're good. They're doing their job. But there is a dynamic shift that happens and
Mm-hmm.
there is negativity that's formed and it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I look into too. And then obviously, do they have the skill set that I need? For that position, if I am hiring like a senior designer, can they manage people? Can they run a team? Are they personable? Can people respect them? It's more than just skills. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
us know CAD, we know SketchUp, we know all these computer programs, but that's not design. That's just a tool to design with.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
And so when we're looking for somebody, does that person really know how to design? And generally when we say I narrow it down to 3 people, every single person who's hired here as a designer, I give them a little project. And so what I ask them is that tell me a style that you like. So if they say modern, I'll say, okay, you're not going to do that. You can do something else. Why don't we do a French country like kitchen? And I want you to give me, a design board, and I want you to give me a floor plan. And then they'll ask me, who's the client, who's this and that. I said, you create your own client. You do everything on your own. But I want a design board and I want a floor plan to go with it. And you do what you want. And so many times we've had people who have gone overboard where they presented like a 5-page presentation. And some people have done like a sketch with their pencil and it looks like crap.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it shows me immediately, how interested are you really in our firm?
Right.
Are you even interested in this job, or is this more like a time pass for you until you find your dream job?
Right.
And what is your skill? You say you know CAD, but do me a floor plan and I'll be able to tell, do you know CAD?
Right.
And what is your design sensibility? We can tell like by the furniture that they pick in that design board. So we base, and I actually show all of those projects before we hire someone to the whole team. And I ask them, which project do you like the best? And then that's usually the person that we end up hiring.
Huh. Interesting. That's great. Chad
Yeah.
does the same thing, by the way. Makes them do
Oh,
a
he
little
does?
project. Yep.
I only met Chad recently when we were at High Points together. He was on the panel with me.
Oh, okay. Right. Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
great.
Yep. He
Well, I'm not
does.
by myself.
Nope. He does it too. And
Okay.
also Hylianne Krasno, she runs a commercial design firm in New York City, and she does. Probably a lot of people do. You know what I mean? But I'm just thinking of the people that have mentioned it on the show.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
so smart. It's so smart. And you can weed out the people who are not interested immediately.
Right, exactly. I love it. So now, first of all, I just want to say that it's very clear that you have your BS in economics and finance. I mean, when you're talking about hiring, you're like, well, I start with a flow chart. So, and I like that. And I think that's terrific. And it's because what I heard in there, and what I'm just going to recap is, what I heard in there is that when you have an employee that leaves, you're not necessarily saying, okay, this position left, so I need this exact position refilled. You then go back, look at your whole team. Because there are times, I know that in WindowWorks we have this, there are times where because of logistics, because of the exact team members in place, that one team member is performing a function, but they would actually be better at another one. And then when the job opens up, it's a time to play a little bit of chess with everybody and start to get everybody back to their zone of genius. And that's what it sounded like you were saying. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. It's very smart. It's a very smart way to do it. And it's much more productive, right, Nina? Because when people are working in the position that gives them satisfaction and joy, then they work better too. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. I love it. I love it a lot. Okay. Awesome. All right. So now, when you do you normally, like, what are some of the criteria that when somebody will move from junior designer to associate designer to senior designer, is that literally just a matter of longevity and, again, the positions and openings and the way the team evolves and breathes as a living, breathing thing, or are there criteria, finite criteria?
No, I think it's two-part. I think there is criteria, and I think it is also seniority of who's the next person to move to the next level. Generally speaking, a junior designer assists the associate designer who assists the senior designer. That's kind of how my flow chart works. And so if the junior designer is now ready to have some kind of conversation with the clients and they're understanding how to talk to clients, then at that point I'm saying, okay, you can move up now. I think one of the biggest criteria that I look for when you're moving from a junior designer to an associate designer or an associate to a senior is that, are you able to listen to the client's needs? Do you understand what the client is asking for? Because it's easy to take direction from somebody who understands what the client is saying, but if you're moving into a higher position and you're speaking directly to the client, you should be able to hear what the client's saying.
I love it.
And if you can't hear that, or you're misinterpreting what they're saying, then you're not ready to move to the next level. Because again, design is one thing, running a design firm is something else. They are not the same thing at all. And so kind of when you're moving up in a design firm, you are designing, but you're also starting to manage. You're also starting to meet with clients. You're also kind of running a mini business inside of a larger company. And so are you ready to take that on? Do you understand the client's budget? For instance, if the client is saying, I have $100,000 budget for my whole house, are you going to pick $100 per square foot tile? Do you understand the difference or not? Do you understand scale? Basically, to move to the next level, you have to show some kind of independency where you have a understanding of design in general, as well as an understanding of what the client's wants and needs are.
I love it. It's funny because about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, I did a Facebook Live on that point that you made in there about hearing what the client needs and wants that might not actually be expressed in full sentences, right? Because it's the truth. Because people, not everybody is capable of expressing themselves directly, but it's very important, especially if you are going to create a successful project, that you don't just hear the words that are being said, but you understand the meanings and the things that they're not able to express, right?
Exactly. I mean, to be a successful designer, especially in a creative field like what we're in, we really have to listen to our clients and pick up keywords from them. Because at the end of the day, if you don't deliver what they're wanting, then you don't have a repeat client. You have an unhappy client, and then your word of mouth kind of goes to hell.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, and the thing is, a lot of times is neither side understands what went wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not like if a client says to you, point blank, I want, 2 sofas in this living room and I don't want to spend more than X amount of dollars. Well, that's an easy statement. You don't need, Sherlock Holmes to figure that out, right? But when the client talks in circles because the client doesn't understand exactly what their needs or wants are either, and you don't figure it out, you're right. You don't end up with a successful project. You're right. You don't end up with a referral, and you think, well, what went wrong? And it's just the client sitting there going, well, I really didn't think that project went well. And you're like, well, I delivered everything you asked for, but if you didn't hear what they weren't able to express.
Exactly. Then you're in trouble.
Exactly. I love it. So you're very smart there, Nina.
Thank you.
Okay. So, all right. So So now let's talk a little bit about this drive that I'm hearing in you and this go get it, get 'em-ness in you. So what point in time, what year are we talking? 2014 you were on American Dream Builders?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so that's only 3 years ago. So that's not the beginning of your career. So you were in business at that point 5 or 6 years.
Correct.
And so tell me why at that point, 5 or 6 years into the business, you had an interest in going on to a TV show.
Okay, so let me tell you from the beginning when I was little. It's funny because, when anyone asked me when I was 5 or 6 years old, Nina, what do you want to become? I said, I want to be a movie star.
Oh.
They were like,
well, you
why do
look
wanna
like a
become
movie star, so
Oh.
you really.
So they said, why? I said, why do you want to become a movie star? And I said, because I want to be famous. I want to be famous. I want people to know who I am.
Oh
I
my
don't want to die without knowing who anybody
Look
who I
at
am.
you.
So I think part of it is like an innate want from when I was younger. But and my dad was always like, you need to become a doctor. I'm like, Dad, I want to be a movie star.
Right. Was
So
it
anyway.
did you have a traditional Indian upbringing, Nina, where it was
Yes.
expected that you would be a professional?
Absolutely.
Oh
I mean,
my
not necessarily professional. My parents they're really cool parents. And, even though they have, my dad has a PhD in engineering and then he has his master's, he's an MBA, and so does my mom. And so, they wanted me to do something significant.
Okay.
They always told me, and it's so funny because they told me when I was younger that, Nina, nobody remembers number 2. They always remember only number 1. And I was like, oh my God, and they did. I don't think they meant it literally, but they were
Right.
always just trying to put a drive in me and my brother.
Right.
I have an older brother. And so, I think that just kind of stuck. I think that's just one of those comments that stuck. And now they're like, who cares? Stop working. Like, you need to stay clean. And it's the opposite now. And I'm like, but you told me.
That's
no,
right. You already put that fire on in my belly. I can't turn it off now, right?
It's over now. Yeah.
That's it.
So anyways, because I wanted to become a movie star when I was younger, after I have a son, I had a son or I have a son.
Yeah.
And, then I had my daughter 3 years later. So when I had my daughter, I don't know what happened. Something was just inside of me that I need to do something. Like, I need to do something significant, and I am designing and stuff, but I've got to propel myself to the next level somehow.
Okay.
I'm sick and tired of just being another designer in Houston. And, I said, I want to become somebody. And so, I saw an ad for Design Star for HGTV that they were having a casting call in Austin. And so I told my husband, I was like, you take care of the babies for today. I'm leaving. I'm going to Austin and I'm going to go become a movie star. Go try out for Design Star.
Go be a movie star.
Immediately I had another call back. So I got a call back immediately right after that.
Wow.
And, I went to the level 3 and I had to actually drive back to Austin a week later. And so I went to the 3rd round and then I got eliminated. And so, I was kind of disappointed because I really practiced and, I really thought I had it in the bag. And, I
And
didn't
how
make
long
it.
just before, what was the process from the first tryout to the 3rd callback? Is that 2 weeks time, 3 months time?
No,
What is it?
no,
Oh,
like a week.
round in a
week.
circle. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're really
So I
getting
did-
ramped up and you're like, okay, I got another callback. Okay, I got another one, right?
Because the 2 of them were back to back in the same trip.
Okay. Okay.
And then the next one was, okay, come back next week.
Okay.
And, we're going to videotape you and do like a little, video of you and stuff. And so I did that. And, obviously I got eliminated and I was
Aw.
disappointed and I thought it was over for me. No more TV. And then, about maybe 6 months later, I got a call from NBC and they said, hey, would you be interested in being on a television show? And at that time, it was not called American Dream Builders. It was called something else. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember the name, but it was an American Dream Builders. And they said, do you want to be part of this show? And I said, yeah, NBC. I mean, that's even bigger than HGTV. So yeah, of course. And they told me it's kind of like The Apprentice meets Extreme Home Makeover.
Oh.
And I said, that sounds great. But I had already been through this rodeo before. So
Right. So your hopes didn't get as high this time, right?
yeah. So, I was just a little more, calm.
Okay.
And so again, I had to drive to Austin for the interview. I had the interview done. And, one of the casting agents said that, I would be shocked if you were not on this show.
Oh.
And I said, interesting. But still, obviously there's a little bit of excitement in me, I'm going to be in an NBC reality show and stuff like that. And, but then 2 years passed.
Whoa.
Yes. 2 years
Whoa.
passed of them asking me, can you send me your information? Can you send me your pictures? Can you send me this? Can you send me
And you're
that?
like, what are you, morons? I sent it to you. Like, what is the deal? Like, I would have been out of my mind.
Oh yeah. So, we need to see one more image of your work. We need to see one more picture of you. We need to see more pictures of your family. And so it just kept on dragging on and on. And obviously, my hopes went to hell. I was like, this is not happening. Because
Right.
I think this happened when I was about 4 years into my career.
Mm.
That's when this whole thing started. And then finally, in 2013, in May, I got a call and they said the show is starting filming in September of 2013. Pack your bags, you're coming to LA.
Wow.
But hold on, let me backtrack for a second because
Okay.
they did fly me after the first year. They flew me for the final tryouts. They flew about, I think, 24 people to LA
Okay.
to try out for the show. And it's weird because we were sequestered. So we couldn't talk to each other. We were in our own hotel room for a week, and we went through a week of like medical examinations, like psychiatric evaluation, and all kinds of stuff.
Oh my God. They're probably looking for the crazy ones now.
I think they were looking for something. Yeah. And so, I did that, and then a year passed again. And then that's when they
Oh.
said, okay, you've made the show and you have to be here in September. And at that time, my daughter was only 2. She was
Yeah.
just a little baby. She had just turned 2 in July, and I left in September. And so, I was obviously nervous to leave a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old with my husband by himself. We
Right.
had a nanny. Both of our parents are here. So, it was just one of those opportunities I couldn't give up. You
And
know,
how long were you gone for?
I was gone for 5 months.
Wait, did you come home on weekends?
I was only allowed to come home twice, and that was with permission. One was during Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, 3 times.
Wow.
One was during Christmas, one was during Thanksgiving, and then one I did a sneak trip for my son's birthday, which was December 5th. And that was it. I
That's
was not allowed to
beyond
come.
comprehension.
Yes, they would not let us leave because they were worried that we're not going to come back. Like we're going to get stuck or our plane will be delayed or something will happen and we have filming on that following Monday. So, we barely got any time off on that show, but I have to say that, for some people, people think that that show was nonsense for them. They're just saying, "Oh, it's just another show. Like, I already have a successful career and stuff." But for me, it was probably, I have to say it was more like life-changing for me because I was with a bunch of designers. Like, you look, one girl was like, she designs for the O magazine for Oprah.
Mm.
One has been in AD multiple times. And, at that time for me, these guys were way above what
Mm.
I could, and their achievements were much, much more than what I had. I was probably the least experienced person on that show. And
Wow.
so I was immediately intimidated when I started finding out who these people were
Wow.
you know had already been on HGTV. One girl, like there's the competition was fierce because I thought that oh, I have this in the bag, and then I met everybody else and I was like, oh God, and
Wow.
there was that I doubted myself and I said I shouldn't be on the show. Like there's no reason I should be on the show. But funny enough, I ended up being a semifinalist and I took all those people out.
Wow. Well, but you
Which
know
is
what?
great.
That's interesting because, you are a successful person by nature. I can hear it. Okay. And of course, your parents' upbringing and all of that. So it's like one of the first times that you probably had a come to Jesus moment where you're not the smartest girl in the room.
Well, I felt
Yeah.
intimidated.
Yeah.
It was scary. It was
Yeah.
very
I can
scary
imagine
having
it.
like cameras on you, having a sound guy on you, and I remember the first day coming back to my hotel room and calling my family and just saying, I'm leaving. Like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this.
You're
I'm
like at
quitting.
sleepaway camp and it's too much. I
Yeah.
want to go home.
I wanna go home. Basically, I wanted to go home. I was crying and I was like, I
Oh my
can't do this. This is too
God.
much stress. Because, they're like, you have a kitchen to design and you have 2 hours to do it and any mistakes is on you. And I was like, what? What are you
Oh
talking
my
about? And so it was
goodness.
just very stressful. But what's interesting is, my husband told me, he goes, you won't leave that show until I tell you to leave. And, or they tell you to leave until they tell you, not I tell you, until
Right.
they tell you to
Okay.
leave.
Okay.
And, or you get eliminated. And so, that just as I stayed on, and then some of my friends started leaving. I made friends with everybody. We become a big family on that show, and
Mm.
started leaving, and then it was dwindling down to the last 4 people, and it was just I learned so much because I watched and I learned and I watched, I learned. I
Mm.
mean, I got a nickname called the Black, what is it called? That spider, the Black
Oh,
Widow.
Black Widow.
Yeah, I got a nickname called the Black Widow, and that because she watches and she learns. And what I learned from everybody's design styles, because you're in a boot camp basically on TV, so you have to have a perfect personality, you have to uphold yourself properly, and on top of that, you have to deliver a spectacular design. So it's pressures from all ends. And for me, I just learned and I learned and I learned, and I just learned so much on those 5 months from so many different people, their different design aesthetics, how they design, what is their process. And, for me, it was more like life changing for me.
Wow. And how did you leverage that and have it be worthwhile and translate for your design business? Because a couple of weeks ago, or so, I guess maybe a month or so ago, I interviewed Anne Rue, and she is in the Orlando area, and I don't know if you know or familiar with her work, but her work is outstanding. And she was on Design Star. And she said, one of the things that she said, that in hindsight, she would think that going into it, you would be better served if going into it you had a PR plan, so that when you come out of it, you hit the ground running with the PR plan. Something to that effect is what she said. And so I'm curious, you said it was life-changing. So it was life-changing from an experiential standpoint. That's a tough word for me. So like the actual experience of learning was life-changing for you. Was
Correct.
It also career-changing for you, or it was career-changing in what you learned about design?
I think for me, in career changing, it was, they would talk about certain designers that I'd never heard about, and they would say, oh, you should go look at this person's work or this person's work. And, I was exposed to so much more. I think 12 designers sequestered, so I was exposed to all of their language and their contacts and, their thought process. And so it was both experience. I guess it was an experience, but also it changed my career, because when I got out of it, I myself had changed as a person because I viewed design completely differently, because I learned all these names, I learned all these show houses, I learned all this stuff that I don't know living in Houston, and I took that and I actually hired a PR firm, and, I started asking them questions, and, how do we, and they specialized in interior design. And so they started giving me more information. And then from there, it was just a basic progression of learning something. And then, because I was on the television show, I started going on the news here in Houston. I started getting more talk show stuff locally, and then, getting in more magazines, Local Star and all this kind of stuff. And then from there, all of a sudden, Saks Fifth Avenue, I get a contact from, Landmark Hospitality, who had a restaurant on Saks Fifth Avenue, saying that, hey, they're building the new restaurant. Do you want to give a bid? And so I said, yeah. So I give a bid, I lose the project, they give it to somebody else, he doesn't deliver, and I get the project back.
Whoa.
And all of a sudden I designed a restaurant in Saks Fifth Avenue. You understand? So it's been a progression. And now Saks, the restaurant, is a very small project considering the projects that I have now. So it's just been a constant growth from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And, all of them have been experiences, but I think the big leap was obviously the television show.
Okay, so it created awareness of your. Number one, it taught you something very tangible. It taught you many things that are tangible that you transfer to your business. Okay, and to the design side of your business. But then you're saying it, started to really create the platform for the brand, so that you became recognizable both for design and for your personality appearances on TV, and that opened the door for that first commercial project. So let me ask you a question. So I can see all this, and I know from, if you have a finance and an economics background, that you have got the business side of it locked down. There's no question. But talk to me a little bit about how, this is a lot of moving parts now, and I don't know. I mean, the television show was only 3 years ago, so it has moved fairly quickly since the television show. These big projects and this notoriety. Another word I have a hard time with. Like, honestly, it's like ridiculous, the number of words that I can never pronounce.
You have a sexy New York accent.
So the thing is, talk to us a little bit about what I know you probably had things that you were thinking in the background, like I've got to keep these business things locked down in order for all of this fun stuff on the outside to keep happening. Can you think about some of those processes and maybe team members that you had in place or ways that you handled? Because now you're talking about a lot of travel involved for all of this stuff, not just the show, but after the show. You know what I mean?
No, of course. No, you know what? I think that I have established that I can't do everything by myself, and I actually can't run this company by myself at this point anymore because I have to be the face. I have to be the one traveling. You know, I'm working on licensing deals and things like that, and I have to actually go meet these people. So I have to make sure that the business is running smoothly while I'm not there. So I ended up hiring a design manager who comes from Gensler and PDR. So who are
There's
obviously big companies.
there, right?
Yeah. So she's, in her 50s, and, I wanted somebody very mature to run my office because sometimes because we're so passionate in the office, there is a level of immaturity that only because everybody is so passionate and, they're so driven with design that, they have to be kind of
grounded a little,
reined in a little bit sometimes. And so, I needed somebody like her. So now that she's here, she's the one who's helping out, and I'm still training her because not everyone has my eye. And so there's two specific people in the office who I feel like get me 100%. Like they can show me anything and I'll generally approve it once I concept everything. But, she's still learning. She's learning that part of it. But as long as she can manage the design team for right now, and then I have two people who are kind of in charge of the actual selections, I think I have it covered for right now. And I'm hiring people who think like us. Like if you have a completely different aesthetic, like if you're a shabby chic and you love shabby chic design, then you're probably not the right person to work here. Because we are a fashion forward, highly stylized design firm. So if you don't fit our aesthetic and you like a traditional home, we're not the right firm for you.
Right.
And so I think that the people who work here, they get it.
I love it. I think it's amazing. It's really, yeah. And what you're saying is it's almost like, you're hiring the mom to take care of everybody when you have to step out.
We call her Mother Hen. Actually, we call her Mother
Hen. Exactly. It's like, okay, she's in charge when I'm gone.
If you can't handle it, then you call grandma.
That's it. But that's good because it's important for a large team to have direction when the principal is not in the space. It's important for everybody to understand that there's still somebody running the ship and everything is going to be fine, and keep doing what you do. Keep designing, keep sourcing, keep doing everything. Things are happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's also too. I think it's one of the things that you do have to consider when you grow your business out, and you do it in a way that you're doing that requires travel and requires lots of meetings and things that don't happen right in your own little area there, because your staff could get nervous. Oh, is she going to do licensing and TV and not do design anymore?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You have to
but
make
you know
sure.
What? That training has to be there. You have to train them to make sure that everybody understands kind of what your expectations were. Something funny that happened, maybe last year is, as you grow, because we're a team of 12 and probably going on 15 in the next couple of months. And, as you grow, obviously I'm still the conceptor. I still meet the clients. I'm still the one who concepts. But as we get bigger and bigger, I might not be able to be that person 100% by myself anymore. And, one of my employees came up to me and she said, any design project that I work on, I want recognition for it. And I said, that's interesting. Why would you want recognition when you work for the Nina Magen brand? Right. I'm confused. Right. And she said, because you don't design every single detail of everything that we do. You concept it, and then we actually implement your concepting. And, I was irritated by the comment, and then I went home and I had to think about it. And I said, what is this lady saying to me?
Right.
And eventually she stopped working here for various reasons, because she obviously didn't believe
None
in
of the
brand.
which is that she's not a team member, but go ahead.
She's not a team member, and she's looking for her own self-satisfaction, which in turn means she should probably start her own company.
Right.
But, as you grow, these are some of the growing pains that you have to deal with, is that, designers, everyone wants to be recognized. So I had to think of a creative way that, how do I give recognition to my team members without giving them credit for my company,
And
if
what
that
did you
makes sense?
yes, it does. Did you come up with an answer?
Yeah, I did. I did. I thought I came up with the answer, and that is, giving them recognition within the company, making them part of the family, making them feel like they don't work for me, they work with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the biggest thing is that showing them that they have a future in the company,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is so important,
Mm-hmm.
is that they have to see their own future here for them to buy into the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started reading books like, From Good to Great, like
Mm-hmm.
management books, From
Mm-hmm.
Good to Great, listening to Tony Robbins and things like that, and trying to understand, because from an employee perspective, they also want something.
Right.
It's not just to push the main principle forward while they get left in the back like minions.
Right.
Like, they also have to see their personal growth in the company.
Right.
And so then I restructured everything, and I thought to myself, you know what? They need to be with me and no longer for me. And that's the approach that I changed.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of valuable things in there. The first of which is that not everybody is destined to run their own company. Not everybody has what it takes stomach wise, honestly, to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that that person, like you said, doesn't strive to be recognized and to have fulfillment and to have a little sunlight on their face as well, right?
Right.
So it's finding that personality, that a specific personality that is happy to have someone else, pay the bills, put the lights on, and drive the ship, but make them feel valued and respected and worthwhile and integral to the team is very critical, right?
Yes,
Right.
for sure. And I think that's why I have some, long-term people. I started noticing that I started having long-term people and less turnover
Right.
because of that change.
Right. Right. Good, good, good. That's good. It's good growth on your part. That's nice. And the other thing is too, sometimes you do find somebody like that other employee that you mentioned that probably is destined to own their own firm. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And just didn't
Right.
understand that at that moment, that's what that person was getting ready internally to do. It's
Right.
look, you don't fault anybody for having the question, but it is sort of like, wait a second, my blood, sweat, and tears. And like, we're just going to put your name on it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if I can't make
Exactly.
rent next month, is your name going on that check? Are you sending that over?
Exactly. No,
So
absolutely.
no, it is one of the challenges of entrepreneurship. It is one of the challenges of leading and building a team, is putting all of the people in the right place. And like we said at the top of the show, I know in our experience, I've often found after, a shakeout here and there, it's like, wow, you would be so much better over here. You would be better utilized here. And then all of a sudden you find that person just thrive and go, oh, wow, your lights were turned off. I didn't know I turned your lights off. I'm so sorry. Let's keep the lights on.
Exactly.
I love it. It's cool. So, all righty. So, you're a very, very smart, intentional lady. I think it's amazing. And you're seriously, well, I mean, what are you going to do about being an actual movie star? Is it still on the table? Are we going to see you at the big screen or what?
I think that ship has sailed.
Okay.
I have a new passion, and I think that this passion has taken over any other passion. So
Okay. That's cool.
I'm happy.
That's awesome. And so what is in store for you, Nina? What do you have things in your mind that it's funny because it's very easy for me to talk with an interior designer that is a solo and maybe is at the present time has their day job and they're doing this on weekends, and you say, what's in store? What's your dreams? Oh, my dream is to leave my day job and have my own design firm. When you're at this level and you have a nice big team and you have really good big projects and you are getting a lot of recognition both in and out of the design industry, are there things that you are looking forward to yet to create for yourself, Nina?
No, absolutely. Always growing. So, we're talking to MGM hotels right now. We're looking to do some more high profile projects for big hospitality firms. Maybe a couple of celebrity homes, just really get to the next level. Like I want, if I had a dream, my dream would be that, every household name knows knows the Nina Magen line.
Mm.
Or knows the name Nina Magen.
Okay.
And so that's really what my goal is that I don't want to just be another designer. I want to be a significant designer. And so, I have to work more on my design aesthetic. I have to learn more. I have to research more. I still have a long way to go.
Okay. Well, you know what? I won't be surprised to watch you get there. That's for sure. Now, tell me a little bit about that specifically. When you say, we want to look to do celebrity homes and things like that, how does one go about doing that other than just telling the universe you want to do it? Are there actionable ways that you as a firm and as a principal are maneuvering that opportunity?
No, absolutely. There's many ways to do it. First of all, you have to have a very good PR company. Okay. And, I have a great PR, and he's actually based out of New York. Mm-hmm. And so I'm working with him right now, and, we're contacting different agents and telling them that, hey, we can do a room for free, or, you just have to pay for the furniture. We'll design for no cost. Okay. You have to be creative. And if you are creative, I'm sure that you'll get the job.
Okay. So that's very interesting. I have to tell you, I've never, ever in almost 2 years had a high level designer say that. Now, for instance, we often say when you're starting out, okay, so maybe you do the design for free for your neighbor down the street in exchange for being able to photograph it. But it never occurred to me that when you get to that level, to jump to the next level, that you start again sometimes with the same offer.
But why not?
Right?
Why not?
Absolutely. Why not? Absolutely.
To get to the next level, why not? Like,
exactly
I am not
right.
If I was at the level right now where I want to be, at that point, I can charge for everything. Right. But I'm still growing, and I'll continue to grow. So why not? If there's something that I want, I have to give something to get what I want.
Yeah. I'm, you know what? I'm remarking at how simply genius it is. Never, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, never thought about that. But it's so true. You're right. You're giving something to get something.
I mean, say I wanted to do George Clooney's house. Okay. If I want to get George Clooney's house and he says, hey, I'm not going to pay you, but I'll pay for the furniture.
Right.
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 I'm not saying I'm going to provide the furniture for free. I'll provide you design services for free. You pay for the furniture. That house will be published in every single major magazine. And how many people look at that and say, she's the designer for George Clooney? I will get tenfold back by doing a simple job like that.
I love it because, and that's what I was going to say. It's like nobody, would think twice about spending $10,000 to put an ad in a national or an international shelter magazine that they would get 10 clients back from. That's like if it costs you $10,000 and your man hours to design that space, that's what that was. It was an ad.
Exactly.
I love it. I never realized that the big guys do that.
Of course. Well, I do. I don't know about any other people.
That's well, you're very smart. That's awesome. Well, I have to tell you, I think it was, I was going to let you go, and I have one other question.
Sure.
If you could think about a particular thing, because we've pretty much had a really good conversation about how one thing led to another. And I know that as much as this whole conversation has been like, wow, that's amazing, and that was easy, and that was good, that there are things along the way that are struggles, Nina. Could you think of anything that you would share that was an aha moment for you, or something that you learned that was a little lesson the hard way that maybe would help somebody listening? Anything come to mind?
I'm sure that there's many things. There's many things. I think I've had many aha moments, even to the point where I wanted to shut my company down because I was done with it.
Okay.
But I think that, I think the one aha moment I've had that I've never gone back on is you choose your clients as much as they choose you. You don't have to put up with anything, because very early on in my career, I had a very difficult client who basically abused me. And it was really just me and an assistant. And it was a little abusive. It was verbally abusive. And, I stuck to it because I said, no, I have to have a happy client. No, I have to have a happy client. And eventually I ended up firing him. And you have to know when to kind of let go and say, I've done everything I can. But we're human too. We are in a service industry, and it's very difficult to be in a service industry because we're not selling anything that's actually material or tangible. We are selling a service, and so sometimes people take advantage of that. And, it almost so much advantage to the point where I didn't want to do this anymore because I felt like it was too difficult. And, I've realized that when things are difficult, that's when your next, I guess, you move to the next level.
Your growth comes, right?
Your growth comes, yeah.
Right,
That's when
right.
you move to the, it's happened every single time, that every single time when I'm so down and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, something happens where I jump levels,
Right,
you
right,
know?
right.
So just don't give up.
Well,
Don't
that's
give up.
very
It's a
powerful.
difficult business.
Yeah. No, it's powerful because a lot of times, younger in, earlier in their career path and everything else, they look at somebody, it's easy. Amber Lewis said it. I've repeated her sentence a lot on the show because I just thought it was such a really insightful way to put it, is not to compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. And it's just so, it's in this day of social media and everything else, it's so easy to look around and say, oh, everything is so great for her or everything is so great for him. And I think that it's very important when people like yourself that have had a lot of success and are enjoying a lot of success, but do share that, it wasn't all easy. And there was 20 times I wanted to close the doors down. And I did have a customer that verbally abused me. And I did have to learn how to stand up and say no to that. So sometimes we think that, people are hatched perfect, right? And all together, but it's a growth for all of us.
No, for sure. And I still remember looking at some other designers in Houston and thinking, oh man, I wish I could be a design firm like them one day. I wish I was like them, and now with the grace of God, it's a different story today, and you don't know what your path is, and you just have to believe in yourself and just keep on going, because every time you fall, there's an opportunity.
I love it. I love it.
So
awesome. Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much. You're really very, very smart lady. And I'm so happy for you because I can see and feel and hear how you create and make things happen, and you're intentional. And I just think it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, before I say anything about the show, I first want to give a shout out to Andrew Joseph and his team at Andrew Joseph PR here in New York City. Andrew and his team are working with Nina, and they are really an outstanding group of people. In fact, two of the team members, Vice President Byron Cordero and Tiffany Farney, were just awarded PR News Rising PR Stars 30 and Under Award. They were in Washington, D.C. last week receiving their award. So congratulations to Byron and Tiffany and to everyone at Andrew Joseph PR. Many of our guests have been clients of Andrew Joseph PR, and Andrew himself was on the show, episode 39. He talks to us about how to know when you're ready to hire a PR firm. It's a great episode. If you're getting ready, it's a good one to listen to. Okay, now back to Nina. Do you agree with me after listening to Nina? She's very smart, isn't she? And I thought I would take a minute to point out the part of the conversation where Nina told us about the previous employee who thought her name should go on the designs rather than Nina's name. So if you're a principal out there listening to this, you maybe reacted the way both Nina and I did. A little knee-jerk, right? Like, what? Why in the world would you think that? But if you are a hardworking junior designer, part of someone else's firm, maybe you had a moment of, yeah, I felt that way before too. So I have a few things to say about this. First, if you are the junior who is thinking these things, look, you are probably working very hard. You are designing, and maybe you're watching your principal go to High Point or go out on the measures or take the client meetings. But please do not ever, ever, ever underestimate what it takes to open a business and keep it running. I mean, putting your name on the door, signing the lease, paying the taxes, and really rainmaking to bring in the business is not as easy as it looks. And I would say to you, if your principal is making it look easy, then your principal is really good. You probably never see the hard days, the days where your principal might be wondering if the firm will even be open in 3 months. So when we have those days at the owners of our businesses, instead of quitting, we have to dig in and make it happen somehow. So give a little slack there, okay? And also, I like you to remember the lessons of the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. If you've not read this, please read it. It's very good reading, whether you are the principal or you work for someone else. I've talked about it on the show. I'm not going to go into it in detail. Do yourself a favor and read the book. All right. Now, the other thing that I really loved about what Nina did, which is why I brought up this whole part of the conversation, is that when that exchange happened with that employee, she sat back and she reflected on what the employee said. And even though she didn't agree with the request, she understood that it was worthwhile for her to give it careful consideration. She understands while it's her name on the door and it is her that is ultimately responsible for everything that happens at Contour Interior Design, including paying the taxes and the design that is there, she understands and acknowledges that it should be paid attention to about how your staff feels, and that she needed to think about ways to acknowledge and reward and show appreciation for them and what they do in service of her and her clients. So Nina went ahead and created ways to do this for her designers and her employees. And I just think it's just a really good lesson. Just like I was talking to the juniors a few moments ago, I want to say to principals, I have this saying, it's called, do you want to be right or do you want to get what you want? And it applies here. Nina could have stopped at being right. She could have stopped right there, but instead she looked for ways so that everyone could get what they want. So if you're a principal, look around. Do the people in your firm know you appreciate their hard work? Do they know you admire their skills? And if you work for someone, do you express gratitude at the opportunity to be part of what they've created and what they themselves put themselves on the line every day to keep open? So just take a look across the aisle. The grass isn't always greener for either side. Just take a moment, just like Nina did, to reflect and acknowledge, and then maybe thank the other side for being part of the thing that you're all working on together. Okay? Some food for thought. Don't brush it off. Give it a thought. Now, how can I help you in 2018? Are you thinking, I know I want to grow my business. I know I want to build a better team. I know I want to be more organized. But are you thinking, where do I start? Well, I have one-on-one coaching available. I have the 6 Weeks to Success coaching with Nancy Ganskalfer, and I have masterminds forming. I have received several emails saying there's no info on the masterminds on my website. And yes, that's true. The reason is that masterminds are very specific. A mastermind should be no less than 5 people and no more than 8 people. And it should be filled with people who are more or less in the same part of their business journey. Okay, so if you are thinking that you might want one-on-one coaching or a mastermind and you're not sure which, just reach out to me, email me at info@luannigara.com, and we can either go back and forth by email or we can schedule a 20-minute conversation where we can kind of explore which of these things might be right for you. If you're interested in more information on the 6 Weeks to Success, that information is on the website. You can go to luannigara.com/6weeks. Okay? So, and just to let you know, the mastermind is a place where you will meet 8 times with up to 7 peers, no more than 8 of you in the group. You'll share your problems. You'll get real answers. You'll get real solutions. You'll build relationships with colleagues that will often long surpass the length of time that we're together in the mastermind. And you'll get my 2 cents on everything that happens in there. So, all righty. So if you're interested, please email me at info@luannigara.com. We're going to be starting in the 2nd week of January 2018. All right. If you're interested in being on the email list, don't forget, you can do that really easily by texting the word DesignBiz, DESIGNBIZ, to the number 444-999. Okay, the email comes out every Wednesday. It's a newsletter. It tells you who's on the show, what's coming up. It tells you if I'm going to be presenting anywhere, and it tells you about our sponsors, and it tells you about any of these types of courses, okay? And of course, it's getting ready for Tampa. So the IWCE, International Window Coverings Expo in March. I will be there. I'll be doing 2 different presentations there. Information on that is going to be in the newsletter. And so, there's a lot happening. I'm just saying. There's always a lot happening. So, alrighty. The iTunes reviews are awesome. You guys are really just making me feel like $1 million, and I really do thank you and appreciate them, and want you to know that I read every single one. And that I know that it's a real royal pain in the patootie to do an iTunes review. They don't make it so easy. But I have to say that they are social proof of what's happening on the show. They make it very easy for me to have conversations with sponsors. And also, truthfully, the feedback there is what I sometimes use, not even sometimes, but when you say things that you like, I'm like, anybody else, let me bring you more of it, okay? And so, it's very helpful all the way around, and I really do appreciate it so much. Alrighty, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.